Hello everyone, just a quick announcement before the episode. We just wanted to let you know that we recently launched a Patreon.
Patreon includes a Discord server that's already full of bonus points community members hanging out, talking and playing together. Plus, at 50 patrons, we have an exclusive show called Extra Credit, which is ready to launch already.
And don't fret, everything that we have been doing already, which is free, will always remain free.
And if you'd like to find out more, there is a link to our Patreon page in the description. Thanks.
Cheers.
Hello and welcome to a new video on the Bonus Points YouTube channel called Games of the Year.
Games of the Year.
Found out. Games of the Year 2022. So in this video, we'll be rattling off our top 10 picks of the year each. We each have a 10.
Yep.
I was thinking about maybe we could try and do a combined top 3, but I don't think we're going to be able to.
Well, you don't think we'll be able to agree?
Maybe at the end. No, I don't think we'll be able to agree, yeah. So this video, we're going to do... Joe's got some honourable mentions, I've got an honourable mention, and then we'll do 10 to 6, and then the next video we'll do 5 to 1.
Yep.
And maybe we'll try and find a top 3 from that. So as you've got so many honourable mentions, Joe, would you like to go first?
Yeah, so this is our top 10. I've kind of done just top 15, but the bottom 5 just don't count. But they're all good games. I wanted to mention them. So 15 is Splatoon 3. 14 is a game called Casual Birder, which no one would have heard of, but it's on the Playdate, the little portable thing. Then Overwatch 2 is at 13.
Ooh.
Then Return to Monkey Island is at 12. And then 11 is God of War Ragnarok.
Oh, wow. Do you know what? Out of all of those, I'm very surprised that Monkey Island didn't make the top 10.
Yeah, no, it was on my most anticipated games, and some of the others that are on the list weren't. I think it is a good game, but it is I was worried it was going to be playing too much into nostalgia, and it was, but it wasn't as bad as that because that was what the story was about. The theme was about nostalgia, which was more interesting than it just being about nostalgia, but it still kind of wasn't really what I wanted.
Oh, well, how long was it in comparison to the other ones as well? Because I was curious about that.
They're all really short once you know what you're doing, but it probably took us about 10 hours to complete.
Okay, because I also have a point and click game on my
I know what one it will
10,
be.
But it took a lot longer than 8 hours to finish. So I just wondered if they were all that long.
I have 3. You could possibly argue 4 point and click adventure games out of my 15, which is mad because it's 2022.
God. Yeah. It's a resurgence, isn't it?
Guess so.
So my honourable mention is the Xbox release of No More Heroes 3.
Okay.
It's not a port, it's just a port. It's just the release of the game that came out 6 months after the original. There's no upgrades. I mean, it looks nicer and it runs better, but they didn't add anything. It's just that version of it.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's not, because some of mine are re-releases, but I feel like it's not special enough to actually warrant being on the list. Otherwise it would be number 1 if I thought it was.
Yeah. Yeah, for the game itself, it would be number 1, but this update isn't really much of an update.
it's literally, they've just picked it up and put it on the Xbox, and that's it. So I do actually on my list have a few. I've done if it has a substantial update, or it's the first time it's ever been re-released, then I've included it. Otherwise, I haven't.
We can make our own rules for this. Even if it was a game had a huge update, like Overwatch, then you can include it, I guess.
Would you like to do number 10?
Yeah, sure. I think this is going to be one of our matches. I got at number 10, Vampire Survivors.
Oh, very nice.
Just
number 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still a lot of people I speak to are like, I don't know what that is, or it looks old, and they won't play it. Which is what I had over Christmas.
If you saw a trailer, it doesn't scream you have to play this. You kind of got to play it and kind of realize what it's all about. Do you kind of want to, I'm assuming it's on your list, so I guess this will be the time to talk about it. I know you got into it earlier in the year.
Yeah, so I played it in February when it was just super early access and it was £1 on Steam. For anyone that's not played it, it's kind of like a tower defense game, but if you imagine that you are the tower and you add things to yourself and you just kind of walk around. It's a lot more exciting than that, than I made that sound. And it's, I don't know, I mean, I guess if you're looking at the gameplay on screen now, it's going to be kind of clear what's going on. It's something about it it makes you want to go, oh yeah, next time, one more run, next time I'll pick up this thing differently. I'll do this one thing differently, and hopefully I'll last longer. Because when you get to 30 minutes, the game ends. But then I found out you can punch through that 30 minutes, and now that's become a whole new thing. The game's super cheap. It's on Game Pass, and they've also just released DLC, which is also really cheap.
Yeah,
and worth getting.
And it's also like
£1 or something.
One of the things that's kind of weird about it, or like I guess unique, is the way you control it. Like apart from like the menus where you're selecting upgrades, you only move your character. Like they attack automatically. So it's such a great game. Like I know you've been playing with your girlfriend who isn't really a big gamer, but you know she's probably about as good at it as you are because you know there's no like controlling a 3D camera and aiming or anything. It's just just moving and like planning a route is all you're really doing.
Yeah, and the way they trickle new things in is really good as well. Where it's like, oh, you get the like recipes of how to upgrade your weapons. You get them at like the perfect time into the game where you're starting to think like, okay, I've seen what's going on here. They'll give you that, or like they'll give you a map that shows you there's like items on the field that you didn't realize were there, or like they change the way you unlock characters. They just always add a little something that makes you like want to play again.
Yeah,
and also it was made by one guy.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
Italian not entirely surprising when you look at the game, but it's still, it's still impressive when anyone's done that. I'd say the reason why it isn't higher, and it could have been, is, and you kind of experienced that when you were over last, is I'm kind of at a point now where, like, I'm not killing death, so, like, I'm not getting past that 30-minute mark, but I'm always reaching that 30-minute mark, taking basically, like, no damage. Like, I know which upgrades I want, and, like, there's no, like, I enjoyed it more when it was like, oh, yes, I survived over 10 minutes. Oh, yes, I survived over 15 minutes. Can I get further? But now I'm like, I just always survive up to 30 with no challenge. And I'm sure maybe there's a twist or something, but, like, I've kind of stopped playing it because I've lost that challenge, I guess.
Yeah, there's one level, I think it's got, like, stained glass windows in it, and I can't remember what the level's called. I think if you do that one next, you literally can't get to 30 minutes because it changes, and it's quite cool. What you go through like this whole thing, and it's like kind of changes the game quite a lot. So maybe if you do that one, you'll be back on it.
Yeah, I'm sure there's something that I could do to make it. But I don't want it to be like, oh, I'm turning the difficulty up, because I always like it when it's, no, this is the challenge that the developers set. Can you beat it? Like Geometry Wars or something. Like, I don't want it to be like, I don't want to be trying to balance it myself. I want it to be like, here's the challenge. Can you overcome it?
Okay, I'm going to do my number 10 now, which was a recommendation from you, my friend. It was Lost in Play on the Switch, which came out in February 2022, and it was developed by Happy Juice Games. And I don't know if they've ever made any other games, but this one was pretty amazing. I also played through it with Bryony because it's a point-and-click game, and it's like cartoony looking. Like, it looks incredible. Like, that was when you showed me, that was the thing I couldn't believe, was how good it looked.
Yeah, because I remember I showed you.
It literally looks like Adventure Time.
Yeah, I showed you the trailer, and it looks like, a full cartoon. And I was like, oh yeah, by the way, this is the gameplay. This isn't like the cutscene. This is this is what it's like as you're playing through it.
Yeah. So it's a point-and-click game, but the puzzles aren't that hard, and the hint system's also pretty good. I only had to use a guide once, and it probably took me about 13 hours to finish it.
Yeah.
And also, like, because it's all kind of based on imagination, some of the scenarios are like just so cool, and like, because they can just do anything. Like, some of the stuff you see, like especially towards the end, is like, you'd never expect to see it, and it kind of like, I don't know, my expectations were completely blown away. I was expecting it to be like, the opening section's quite easy, and I was like, oh, that's nice. Like, I could definitely play this with Brian. It'll be a nice game. And by the end of it, I was like so into it.
Yeah.
Like loving it. And there's one particular puzzle that was so good that I think they could have made a whole game out of it, which is the storybook, where like the time changes.
Yeah, with like the well and the castle and stuff.
Yeah, so it's like a well that's like on a torn bit of the page. So when you put things in the well and you turn the page, it doesn't affect it. And then there's like this tower and like this pool of water that you can like fill and drain. But it was just so good.
Yeah.
That was one of those puzzles the whole way through. We're both just like, this is so clever. Like, this is way cleverer than us.
Yeah. It's good, like, because there's obviously, like, I play a lot of point-and-click adventure games, and, like, most of them are very story-driven, and they're about kind of going into an environment and like exploring it and like conversations, meeting characters, dialogue trees and talking everything, exhausting all the dialogue options. Whereas this, there's no dialogue. They're kind of basically talking like Simlish and kind of, you know, they might have a speech bubble. They're like, you know, I want a key, and it'll be a speech bubble with a key, and you know, like, and it's often quite funny, some of those bits. So it's super, you know, there is a story, but it super focuses deep on the puzzles. And kind of like you said, a little bit of the puzzle book one, it does a lot of times where it will like single in, like it might be like the equivalent of two characters playing a game like chess, and it will zoom in and then you've got to solve that puzzle. So it's very deep in the puzzle side. It's not just environmental puzzles like get the torch to burn the thing. There's lots of like proper like puzzly puzzles in it as well, which I really enjoyed.
It's kind of like Professor Layton in that you kind of do. I mean, the puzzle is themed around what you are actually doing, but it's very much like, okay, you're now doing the puzzle section and you go back to the gameplay section. Yeah. So yeah, that's my number 10. Cool, brilliant. Yeah, really funny as well. Yeah, definitely recommend it. It's funny. Yeah, anyone should play it. Honestly, it's amazing. And it's gross. It's gross too. I like that about it. Yeah, lots of like bums and bins. You think of the bit of the fish as well. Yeah. You got to pass items back and forth through an interesting orifice. Anyway, moving on. So my number 9 is a game which I know you played briefly, but I don't think you went back to, and that is Tinykin. Oh, I didn't expect to see that on this list. It's great. It's a fantastic game. So did you go back to it at all? No. I played about an hour and a half, and then I was like, I got stuck, and then I got too much to do, mate. I can't. It's not that long of a game. Right, let me say what it is. So it's basically like almost like an old school 3D platformer collectathon, but I guess the twist is mainly, I guess, the setting where you're like a tiny person in a big house, think like Borrowers, and then in the art style, it's a relatively realistic 3D rendered house, but you are playing a 2D character. And then the other kind of inspiration is Pikmin. So you're going around, you're collecting all of these little Tinykin, which are these little creatures, and they're different colors. And depending on what color they are, they'll have a different thing. So like the red ones are bombs that you can throw. There's green ones that you can like use them to stack up. And eventually you end up with like over 100 of these following you, which is like quite a cool sight. And it's kind of cool that the graphics can handle that, because they're not like a perfect mass. They'll be getting stuck on things and like, trying to like, if you jump up, they'll be jumping after you. So you have like this giant squad around you, and you're basically going around solving a bunch of puzzles for people in this environment. Really great soundtrack, really cool movement mechanics. You kind of can float around. You can slide around on like a bar of soap, and it's almost like a skateboard and go grinding on things. And yeah, it's just kind of a joy. I really liked it was so pacey when I was playing it. It was like I was literally like opening a new route, getting a new set of Tinykin, like finding a new place to go, speaking to a new person, like literally every couple of minutes. Yeah. It was like I was just rolling forward, and I was like, oh my God, this is great. Like there's so much momentum. To the point where I was like, I could finish this in one sitting. Yeah. But then obviously I got stuck. And I got stuck for so long. I think I got stuck for as long as I played. Like as in I played for 45 minutes, smashing it, and then I didn't progress at all for 45 minutes. Yeah. And when you say stuck, just to clarify, it was like you couldn't find an item. It wasn't like there was a boss. So there's no challenge in the gameplay. There's if you like die, which you can only do by falling. Yeah, there's no enemies either, which is nice. Like if you fall, you're just completely back. There's like no barriers in terms of challenge for most people. Yeah. Well, I can say exactly what. If anyone's played Pikmin, you'll understand. But basically, like the Tinykin, you discover them in clusters. Like either they're like in eggs or buried or something, or they're just kind of standing around. And I had to have 18 of a certain type, and I had 17. And I had the whole level unlocked. So I was like, somewhere in this whole level, I've missed one. And I ran around and I did a couple of loops of the level, and I couldn't find that one. I think you must have missed a whole area, because for me, it was never like you have more. They give you more than you need. Like you normally have an excess of them. Probably they wouldn't have. Probably. They wouldn't have. There must have been a whole chest that you hadn't opened or something. Probably. Maybe I'll go back to it next year, because it keeps popping up on Game of the Year lists as well. So. It's good. Like you've seen what it is. Like like there's. It's great. It plays so nicely as well. It's it feels great to control. There were a few little specific areas where there was a few frame rate drops, but it never really affected anything. The only one. It's not even a criticism, but something that I would like is I wish more of the Tinykin were more like
engaging. Like there's the one where, as I said, the ones that you can use to like pile up, and it feels really fun. You just hold down a button and it's like boop, 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 like making your way up.
Oh yeah.
But then a lot of them are almost more like just keys. There's like the zap one, which is like electricity, and it's like, oh, you can use that to power things. And then there's like a bridge one, which is used to build a bridge, and they're all like, they're just like, oh, it might as well be a key to open a door. Like I'm not like, I wish there was more movement ones, like ones, you know, that you're flinging, or like they somehow like, you know, have a movement ability for you, or like create a big ball around you so you can roll around. I wish there were more, some of the later ones were more engaging rather than just like, oh, I need it, I'm going to use it, and then now I've got to the next level. I wish I could use them to like navigate the world more.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Should I do my number 9?
Yeah.
I've been looking forward to this one. I've been keeping it a secret from you.
Okay.
My number 9 is Citizen Sleeper.
You played it!
I played it. I haven't quite finished it, but I'm really near the end. I'm near enough the end to say this is amazing.
Oh,
this game's
brilliant.
great. Yeah, so I've been playing it quite a lot over Christmas.
Yeah.
I've been playing it on my Xbox. I've been playing it on Cloud Play on my phone.
Oh, really?
So I can play it away from home. Yeah, so Citizen Sleeper, for anyone that hasn't played it, is like a proper role-playing game. Like, to the point where that's kind of all it is. Like, you are literally playing a character in this story. You're making decisions for them, and you're rolling dice. That's like the super high-level version of like what the game is. But it's like got an amazing atmosphere. The music like kicks in exactly at the right time. Like the character designs, even though they're just drawings, like they're realized so well, and they're just written. They don't have voices, but in my head they all have voices.
Yeah.
The story itself, it seems like it's going to be a drag and it's going to be pretty depressing. And like, don't get me wrong, it's not like rays of sunshine, but they do give you enough time to figure out what's going on and how to play, but they don't just kill you off. It feels like they might just kill you off because the stakes are so high.
That's one of the things that I've said for like recommending people, because kind of like what you always tell to people for Disco Elysium, saying about don't stress about trying to find a room for the night.
Yeah.
Like for this, it really sets up like you need to take this thing, otherwise you're going to die, and you need to have food, and you need to get sunlight, you know, all these things. But like after probably about playing for 2 or 3 hours, a lot of that stuff just doesn't matter. Like there's just ways to manage it all. And then by the end, it literally basically doesn't matter at all. You're just fine. So
and also like it kind of, the way, because it does that at the beginning, it kind of builds your confidence. Like you will take riskier decisions because you know it's not just going to end.
Yeah.
So there's a part where someone dropped a gun, and in any other game, I'd be like, oh, just back away. Like, but I was like, I picked the gun up and like pointed at them, like, come on, like, take me on. But just quickly, the story just, so you basically play as a guy who's like given up his body so he can like work for this company, but he's escaped. Just before the game started, he's decided to escape the company in his robot form.
Yeah.
But his conscience is still in the robot. But because he doesn't work for the company anymore, the robot's going to shut down in, well, we don't know how long, but in a matter of days. And you're kind of trying to extend your life for as long as you can. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I mean, in a dream world, it would be a bit more involved how it looks, because you're kind of just looking at the outside of a spaceship. And it is really well realized that like you go into a restaurant and the sounds of like plates clinking and stuff, like it is like you're there. But yeah, obviously in the dream world, it would be like you're actually in it or you're actually seeing it. But it's like pretty amazing.
Yeah, of course.
But I haven't finished it, so that's why it's number 9.
Yeah.
I can tell you where I am. I just got to the there's a bit where you go to like the green belt or something it's called. Where you like,
you're growing
like
your mushrooms.
Yeah, so I've just done enough work to be accepted by the community there.
Okay.
And that's where I am. So I think I'm probably about 70% of the way through, I think.
Yeah, so it's a game where, and this isn't really spoilery, like you can kind of like, you'll get to a point where you have kind of can choose when you want to end the game, but then you can keep going and then kind of see everything. So I did everything like I did going through. And I recommend it because it's kind of cool seeing all of the different routes that you could go. Like it lets you go like, imagine a game with multiple endings, but you can go right up to the ending and then be like, actually, no, I'm going to go a different route. And then, okay, do you want to end? It's like, yeah, no, I'm going to go a different route. So you can kind of do that. So it's not like Disco Elysium where you're kind of locked down a path by your decisions. It kind of lets you do everything on one playthrough and then kind of choose when you want to end, which I quite like.
And the characters as well, it's like there's ones that you start liking and then you end up hating. Like, but to a degree where I don't ever remember it being in a game like that much, where I was like, I'm going to help this guy so much because he's going to help me and he seems to be fighting for a good cause. To the point where I'm like, I literally hate this dude and I don't want anything to do with him ever again.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to say who it is, but yeah.
Yeah, cool. I'm so glad you played it.
What you would be.
Right, do you want me to do my number 8?
Please do.
Okay, we don't need to talk about it, but it's Lost in Play. So that's where it ended up on my list.
Oh, nice.
It's pretty close.
Nice. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Right, my number 8 then, which has also already been mentioned, but we kind of glossed past it. It's actually Overwatch 2.
Oh, okay.
So I played Overwatch 2 a lot more than you did, I think.
Yeah.
I had like maybe a rotation of like 3 groups of people that I would play with, so that I always had.
So I basically only played with you, so I haven't really
so I probably played
otherwise.
3 times as much as you. So for me, for about 5 to 6 weeks, the fun of Overwatch like was fully back, and I loved it. Like obviously it had a rocky start, but like it's a free to play game, massive online. It's gonna have server problems. But yeah, like for 5 or 6 weeks, I was like fully invested in Overwatch. Loved it. Like it became that thing that you think about it when you're not playing it, and you just want to play it all the time. I had it installed on like 3 systems. The new heroes were great. I never played Kiriko, but also the game didn't become like a Kiriko fest, which is what I was worried about. He's one of the new heroes. I thought everyone would just be playing her. But I haven't played since they've added Ramatra or whatever his name is. And I think this might be what happens going forward, because I hate games where I have to engage with the store as like a regular part of it.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening here. But for those 5 to 6 weeks where I already had the battle pass because it was included or whatever was included, it was amazing. It was almost like a last hurrah for Overwatch, because I don't know if I'm going to go back to it.
Which is kind of sad
also,
for the launch of the sequel, last hurrah.
Also, the new levels are like just as good as the ones we already had. And push mode, at the start of those 5 to 6 weeks, every game was a tie. No one really knew what they were doing. But to be honest, as it went on and people kind of learned how to play push mode, it did get a lot better. And some of the best games I played have been in push mode in the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just that same thing, isn't it? Where like I don't want to be engaging with the shop every time I turn it on.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm missing. And also the cosmetics don't bother me. Like there was that whole thing about the keyring costs more in the game than it does in real life. And it's like, just don't buy either. Just don't buy them. You don't need them. Like, they're pointless. So it's like all that stuff just washes over me. But yeah, the fact that characters are getting locked and I don't have Ramatra or whatever his name is, and he's a tank as well. He's not a healer. It's like, I want that guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing that I was like, playing Overwatch 1, I was so sure they would never do that. Like, they were so much like, it's only cosmetics. And then the fact that they've done that now and kind of used the sequel as an excuse to make that switch is tough.
Yeah. But it's still number 8, because the fun that I had of Overwatch 1 was there for 6 weeks, where I was like, every day texting all my groups, like, are you playing Overwatch? You playing Overwatch? I'm coming on. I'm like, oh, it's so good.
Yeah. So for me, to make it clear, if this was a list of best games, it would be number 2 on my list, I think, but this is its favorite games, I'm like if I was judging the quality, even if it was slightly worse than Overwatch 1, it would still be near the top of my list, Like for me, for Overwatch, I played it loads back in the day, and then I burnt out on it. And then everyone was like, every time you'd say you want to play, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm just going to wait for Overwatch 2. That's what I'm looking forward to. And then Overwatch 2 came out, and it hadn't changed enough to like stop me being burnt out on it. The fact that it's like you're mainly playing the same heroes and the same maps, and it's different. And I think a lot of the gameplay changes overall I like, but it just felt like a sizable update for a game that I was already a bit burnt out on. So like I just stopped playing it.
Fair enough. I do think like at one point in my life, I had Team Fortress 2, and that came to an end. And then I had Overwatch, and that feels like it's kind of coming to an end. So I don't really know what's coming after that. Maybe it'll be Valorant. I'm really into the idea of Valorant. But
You play it. Probably
something about it. It's just like it just appeals to me. Something about it. I'm like, it looks really cool. I've never played it.
Yeah, I've played it a decent. I've probably put about like 10 hours into Valorant, and I don't think it's for me.
Oh, fair enough. Your number 7 then?
So my number 7 is Tunic.
Tunic. Was that this year?
That's this year.
Was it?
Yeah, it's this year.
Did you look it up?
You can look it up if you doubt me, but I will be judging you for looking it up. But you can do it if you want. I know you're worried about the video.
I'm doubting you. I'm going to look it up.
Okay.
Why don't you explain to people what Tunic is?
Okay, so the reason why Tunic was such a great game that came out this year is, I mean, so it's basically ticking my boxes. Like it's like kind of mixture between like Dark Souls and Zelda, and you play as like a cute fox. So it's like it's like it was made for me. Like from that description, I expected it to be like, you know, closer to like Hollow Knight levels for me or something, you know, and it didn't quite reach that. I think the core actual gameplay let it down, like the actual combat and some aspects of the exploration doesn't kind of reach the heights that I would like. But even with kind of some of those flaws, like the core setup for what this game is just appealed to me so much. It's a game that doesn't hold your hand at all. It's a proper exploration game where it's like it really trusts your intelligence, leaves you to work stuff out, and that can always sometimes lead to frustration, and it did a little bit. But I only had to look up something once. Everything else, you work things out, and there's a lot of times where it will be like you discover some big revelation and you're like, oh, I can do this. I could have been doing that the whole time, but I didn't know. And then you realize that there was like hints to it. Then they got the whole system where you basically bring up what looks like an old game manual, and then you can scroll
that's
through
what
that.
I've seen of it, yeah.
But it's all written in a different language. So you're looking at the pictures, but then also there's like notes where people have written like almost as if someone else has been trying to solve a puzzle and they're like writing down notes on the manual, and then you're using that to work stuff out. And I love that. And apparently that came into the game quite late. That wasn't like the plan, but I couldn't imagine the game without it. It doesn't reach like another game which is kind of similar is like a game like Death's Door, which I would rate higher than Tunic overall. But yeah, just the type of game it is, despite it not being one of the best of it, is just the type of thing I like so much, which is why it's ended up on number 7.
Because I think Death's Door came out this year, didn't it?
I think Death's Door was last year.
Okay, well I can tell you now that it came. Tunic came out in March.
Okay.
So you were right. It did come out
and
this
if
year.
I was wrong about Death's Door, let's just switch Tunic and Death's Door. I'm pretty sure Death's Door was last year.
Okay, I'm not going to look it up. I'll look it up for the edit. I'm not going to look it up now.
Yeah. So I'd say from the description of the game, you will probably know if it's for you. If you are on the fence thinking, I don't know if that is for me, it probably isn't, because I think the core gameplay won't be enough. It's got challenging bosses, but it's kind of, I don't know, it wasn't really a fun challenge. And like a lot of it was like, it was fine. And then there's just like one section where it's just like endless like waves of enemies. It's almost like an endurance challenge, which is always my least favorite, where it's like, it's not like, are you good enough to do this? It's like, are you good enough to keep doing a medium challenge for a really long time? It's like, you know, can you do like, I would much rather say if I'm playing Guitar Hero, can you get past through this one crazy solo? Or could you complete this 5-minute medium difficulty song without missing a single note? You know, it's like, I'd much rather the first one. And Tinykin sometimes feels a little bit like the latter.
You mean Tunic?
Yeah, Tunic. What'd I say?
Yeah. Tinykin.
Tinykin. I looked up on my list and I just saw T and I just thought that would be the one.
Okay, so my number 7, I'm determined to do this game justice. Like, I don't want to explain it badly. So you're going to have to tell me if you actually understand what I'm saying. And if you don't, I'm going to have to start again. So my number 7 is Tetris the Grandmaster.
Okay.
And so that originally came out in 1998. But this is the first time it's ever been released outside of an arcade. So I'm giving it that it can have game. It can be on the list. So it came out in December this year, but it has like taken over my life, basically. So it's basically a Tetris game that's pretty much different to all the modern Tetris games. So the first thing you will notice is that you can't hold a piece and swap it. And you also can't fast drop. But that's only a problem for about 15 seconds, and then it gets really fast, so you don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to try and explain this system in a clear way that the listeners are going to understand what I'm saying. So basically, you have grades, right, that you level up. So you start at grade 9, you level up to grade 1, and every time you drop a block, your speed level goes up by a tiny amount. But when you clear a grade, your speed level drops by 20. So what you're trying to do is clear grades with the least amount of blocks possible in order to climb the ranks to get to grade 1. And then once you get to 1, it goes back up to 9. And then once you clear that, it just ends. So it's a Tetris game that actually ends and it finishes. So like I've had to like rewire my brain to play this game rather than trying to just go for Tetrises all the time, because in this game often it's not the best thing to do because you can't hold a piece. Yeah. So you'll lose them, you know, you'll just build and build and build. And also when I play endless Tetris on my Switch, so like Puyo Puyo Tetris or something, I will have a game going for like 45 minutes, an hour. And then it's like, oh, I suspend my Switch, but I can't play anything else because I have this game going. Whereas this game, I can only survive for 5 minutes before it kills me because it's so difficult. But it's like been super refreshing to play a Tetris game that I'm, you know, that I'm not good at.
Have you completed it? Have you finished a run?
No. So the furthest I've got is grade 1. So I've gone 9 to 1. So I'm exactly halfway through. And I can't pass grade 1 because the score. So basically what you're doing is you're playing tug of war between your own speed level and your grade level. And those two things are kind of pulling back and forth on each other. And it's interesting. It's got things like speed 101 is slower than speed 99 because like it builds up again. So it's kind of like builds up in waves.
Oh, okay.
So like if you've ever seen that graph for like gameplay pacing, and it kind of goes up in steps.
Yeah. So it's always going up, but there'll be little dips down,
there's little dips,
little breaks.
Yeah. Like it's just incredibly well designed, and like I don't know, I've just never played a Tetris game like it ever, and it's cool to play a Tetris game that, like, when I played Tetris Effects, like, yeah, it had the music and everything, but really it's just the same game I've been playing for the last 15 years. Whereas this one actually feels like a different game, and I've had to relearn how to play. Yeah. Because of this grade and level system. But yeah, I mean, it's £6, and I'd recommend it to anyone that likes Tetris.
Yeah, cool. So we're and on Switch, is that you're playing it?
I'm playing it on Switch, but I also bought it on PS5. So, because I didn't have my Switch dock, so I wanted to play it on the TV.
Okay,
because that's how much I love it. I bought it twice. Yeah. So did I do that justice? Did I explain that correctly? I don't know. It's kind of
that makes. I mean, so I played it a little bit. Actually, I remembered because you brought it over. I mean, it is Tetris. You know, like people know what Tetris is. No one's going to argue, say, "Oh, Tetris is rubbish." You know, no one's ever thought that. But yeah, it's cool that, you know, from keeping the majority of the core game the same, you know, apart from the things you mentioned about not saving a block and stuff, but how much just the way the gameplay's framed, and like the you know, the stuff outside of the gameplay, like the adjustment of the speed and the way that the grades work, like that has changed the game so fundamentally, while you still are, you know, trying to fill in lines and fit blocks together. It's cool. Yeah,
it's awesome. Love it. Okay, would you like to do your number 6?
Yes, this is my final one for this video, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think this is
better make it a big one. You're going to do like
well, it's a fun one to end on. This is one that some of the listeners and watchers might remember. It's Escape Academy up at number 6.
Oh, Escape Academy! I didn't even think to include that.
Yeah.
Yes. What a game. Oh, I mean, I know what the footage is going to be for this.
Yeah, so Ollie and I, if you didn't see, we played through all of it together on stream, doing it co-op. Yeah. So basically it's an escape room game. It's set in like a school, although, and you know, so some of them are set up as if they're lessons, but then it turns out to be like a greater story, and it's kind of really goofy reasons why you're escaping. And it's not just escape the room. There's a level where, you know, there's poison or there's water rising and you need to keep making your way up. Yeah, that's the best one,
I think. That was awesome,
Yeah, and then like the theme of it is like, don't panic, you have as much time as the other levels, ignore the water rising, like you're fine. Yeah. I love escape rooms. I love doing them in real life. I think I did 4 or 5 this year alone.
Wow. Yeah.
I really enjoy doing escape rooms, and I think this is the best virtual version of one that I have done. I think it would have ended up higher if there wasn't for a few kind of technical things we had. Well, one thing is you have to play it split screen, and I kind of understand a little bit why they do that. But when you're doing it online, like, not only would I like to see the full screen because it would look nicer and I can see stuff better, also I like the idea of, say, if like I'm looking at a code and Ollie needs to type it in, I think it's more engaging for me to go, right, 2, 5, 4, 1, rather than saying, just look at my side of the screen, and then I'll just stand here and be your eyes. And then
I agree. Make it optional. Make it or maybe hold down. You both hold down Y, and you can see the other player's screen or something.
Yeah, there may be a technical reason they had to do that, which would be hard to imagine because normally it's the other way around. Like split screen is much more graphically intensive for a console. And then the other thing, which is much worse, is there was several times when our games kind of got out of sync and one person saw one thing solving a puzzle and the other person was seeing something else, and we were both shouting at each other going like, what do you mean? You're obviously doing it wrong. And then we're suddenly like, wait a minute, we're seeing things differently.
The pipes. They were so different, weren't they? And so there's this one puzzle where you have to like set these pipes in a line, basically in a line to lead one thing to another. And on my screen, I'd completed it. And then Joe just kept coming over it, like messing it up because on his screen it wasn't completed. Yeah. And I was literally like, what are you doing to my puzzle? I finished it. Like,
and we both think the other person's just being like an idiot and just like, what do you, it's obviously wrong. It doesn't line up. It made a funny moment, but like these are timed levels and you could easily fail a level from doing that. And it happened, I think, twice during our playthrough.
Yeah, it did,
which is like quite a core thing for like this is a game you want to play multiplayer. You're probably going to be playing it online. Like that has to be like, I mean, it might be fixed now, but that has to be their number one priority. If not.
Also, I just want to give a little shout out to the fact that the story, as long as you get on board with it, it did keep us guessing all the way through. We were like, oh, we know this, we know that. And like, we didn't guess a single thing right, I don't think.
Yeah.
As long as you get on board with the fact that, as long as you get on board with the fact that it's an academy where people learn to escape.
Yeah.
And like, as long as you can get past that, it's quite a fun time. You have like your rival and like, it was good.
And the absurdity of it, like the person who's like, oh yeah, like I used to make bombs, but I really just want to like go in my garden and drink tea, but I guess I have to keep making bombs though. You know, it's like, it's so, it realizes that the idea of a school about learning how to escape is so ridiculous that it just makes all of the levels ridiculous. And there was another standard level where you're trying to like rescue the old principal from the school, and you're in like I think we're in like a submarine or something, and we're like looking through security cameras to guide them.
Oh, that was cool, that one. Yeah, that was good, that one.
They have some good framing for the puzzles. I mean, I would, if they kept like releasing DLC packs for this every year, like I would play like every single one of them. Like I could eat this kind of puzzle game up like constantly. If it wasn't for the flaws, it would be higher up than 6 even. That's how much I like it.
Well, I think there is DLC out now, so we could always jump on stream and give that another go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so my number 6, this is another cheeky one that came out a little while ago, but had a very good new release, which is Into the Breach. From 2018. Was re-released this year as the Advanced Edition in July.
You're cheating all of these. You're cheating these.
No,
a little game called Mario, which
no. This had the Advanced Edition is substantially different, and also it released on iPad this year.
Okay, I'll let
so
you
I could play it on my iPad. And also, I'd never played it before, so this is the first time I'd ever played it.
Yeah.
And in playing the free iPad one, which you get free if you have Netflix, which is crazy, I went back and bought it on Steam, so I can play it on my laptop as well because I absolutely love it. For anyone that might not have played it, it's kind of a turn-based strategy game. Kind of looks like a board game where you control these 3 robots and defend cities and forests and ports and things from aliens. But it's pretty much a constant case of, do I sacrifice this thing to save this other thing? So that might be like, do I sacrifice my robot to save this building full of civilians? Do I sacrifice this robot's health to save this other robot? And you're always making these decisions, but what I like about it is that it gives you 100% of the information when you make your turn. Like there's no surprises, and nothing is hidden.
RNG.
Like, you can see where the enemies are going to go. You can see where they're going to shoot, and then it kind of means you can like move your robots like into the right positions before they take their turns. And despite how it looks, which is like, it looks nice, don't get me wrong, it looks like a little board game, it feels like massive scale. I think it's because like, you know, the little buildings of people are like shouting and the sounds of the robots are like really good. It feels like you're literally like, I cannot let these people die. Like I will throw my robot in the way. But yeah, I don't know what was added for this one because I never played the old one. But yeah, I think it's pretty much perfect. I can't imagine what they could change on it. It's like the two games I think are like pretty much perfect is this and Slay the Spire. They're both like so well designed that like I don't know what they could add or take away from it. But yeah, Into the Breach, I definitely recommend to anyone. Me and Bryony played through it together, and I finished the whole thing twice because I loved it that much. So
wow, amazing! Yeah. No, I played it back in the day when it first came out on Switch. And yeah, everything you said, I agree. Like, I love the fact that like it's quite a small grid. I think it's like an 8x8 grid, so it's like quite a small scale, but it's just big enough to have like enough depth and options, but like you never feel overwhelmed. And I really love the way you can really do like a lot of like chain reactions where it's like, oh, if I shoot this is going to nudge them here, so then this other robot can go and like push them down here and stuff. And there's a lot of times where you'll be looking at it and you'll be like, oh, there's no way, like I'm overwhelmed here. There's not a chance that these buildings are going to not get destroyed. And then you look at it for 3 minutes and then suddenly you have like this revelation, and there's almost always a way that you can get out. You just need to like work out as many different options. And then it's also got a really nice progression. Like you kind of have like your pilots and you're kind of unlocking new like sets of robots as you go and kind of going deeper and deeper. So like it is kind of like a roguelike in terms of it. I don't know how it works in terms of randomization or whether it's just picking up different
it's
layouts.
all randomized. So you choose a region, and the region has like 6 levels, and then each of those levels is randomized. It will be like, oh, this one now includes a train. This one now includes a satellite or something that you need to protect. But yeah, also the upgrade system is like just enough that it feels significant, but it doesn't feel like if you didn't have it, you wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah.
It's like the perfect little thing they add on to each character. But like, you know, the sort of scenario you'll have is an alien will be aiming at a cluster of buildings, but it'll be standing next to another cluster of buildings. And you're like, if I push it into that cluster, it'll be defeated. But it's like, do I want to sacrifice like that set of buildings to save this one? Like, and every single turn is like that, where you're thinking like, you know, you're basically doing the trolley problem with like, yeah, it's basically that continuously. Yeah, absolutely loved it. Also, the fact that you keep your pilots. Yeah, I had one pilot for like from when I started playing the game until about a week ago, and it was genuinely devastating to lose that pilot. I had him from the start of the game. Like I just protected him at all costs. I was like, he has to survive.
Your roommate comes in your room and you're there saluting with a tear in your eye. And you're like, what's going on, Ollie?
I'm playing a horn, like
folding the flag of the robot empire.
Yeah. No, amazing game. And also it looks complicated. It's not. You play it, it's so straightforward.
Well, I think like maybe if you just see a screenshot, but like one of the things I like about it is it doesn't seem complicated. It is so small scale in terms of the size of the board that you have to work with. So it does feel very approachable, because sometimes you can have like so many options, it's almost over. And I'm like, I'm sure there is a more efficient way for me to do it. I can't be bothered to sit here and work it out because I have so many things available to me. Whereas this one, it feels like you're always just got enough to get you over the edge constantly, which I like.
Yeah. No, awesome game. I mean, they previously made FTL as well, which is also really good. Yeah. And I wonder what they're going to make next, because I mean, their games are amazing. So
yeah, looking forward to it.
Cool. I think that is everything. And now I'd like to honorably mention Escape Academy, because I completely forgot about it. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, there's no. I mean, obviously this is the games we played this year. Like, there's so many other games that I played this year that didn't come out this year that would have been on the list as well.
Oh yeah, I was thinking about that. I think mine would be Last of Us.
Oh yeah,
I played that this year for the first time. First game I played this year.
I mean, it's been a crazy. I played more games this year than probably like the last 4 or 5 combined. I think it's been honestly, because everything on the podcast, all of these games here, and then this is the year I got into Souls games. So I finished 3 Dark Souls games, Demon Souls, Sekiro, and then I played through Guardians of the Galaxy. I played through 2 Mass Effect games this year. It's been crazy how many games that I've played this year.
God, I forgot about your Dark Souls. Have you had time to The other day, Kai sent me a picture the other day, and like in the background, I could see the corner of the Dark Souls UI, and I was like, "He's still playing that game. I thought he finished it."
Gotta do the DLC. Gotta do all of the DLCs. But it's great because I've been thinking about it. Then I was like, but I've also been like, obviously doing all the bonus point stuff extra. My other channel. Yeah. I've almost completely finished editing one of my novels, and it's also been probably one of my most social years I've had.
Mate, you're living.
I just flying. I look about like, where has this time come from? Like, what was I? How have I managed it so well? It's been a good year.
Yeah, man, you're absolutely soaring. Good for you. Right, I think that's it then.
Yeah,
wrap up there.
So obviously we got 5-1 coming. Don't panic. We haven't forgot.
Yeah, they should be. I don't know when they're going to be out. I'm not going to make any promises. I've got no idea.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, at some point. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. And we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.